Today on Riffs, Beards and Gear, Today on How to Rock, we're going to be reviewing the Hart KT6 and Fan Fret 5-string. So Stephen Hart is a custom guitar builder. He's a one-man operation right now. He's a little bit crazy in a good way. I mean, this is him. And yes, he likes to say things like "wee" and is a little bit off his head. But in terms of a guitar builder, he is absolutely on point right now. This KT6 is one of his more standard looking models because he does a lot of pointy things, which is kind of his core market. A lot of the guitars he makes are 7 strings, 8 strings, 9 strings with beardy weirdy options. This is far more standard than a lot of people ask him for, which is fine. This is kind of a super Strat really. It's got a locked hip shot bridge, locking tuners at the top, no Floyd Rose, thank flipping heck. It's got rolling mill pickups by Iron Gearing, which are actually really good for the money. I mean, Stephen's quite happy to put bare knuckles in there, or Seymour Duncan's at your request, or DiMarcio's. It's just that by default he's trying things like the Iron Gears and a pickup maker called Josie Warman, who makes very affordable, very good pickups. Now, the way that he's designed this guitar is a little odd. The top is spalted horn beam, which is not one that I've come across before. The guitar's got a mahogany core, a poplar back, a rock maple neck, which is much more standard because rock maple, as much as it's not the prettiest in the world, is absolutely, like the name, rock solid. And just a bit of cocobolo on the back of the headstock, just for good measure. And I think it's a rosewood board. Looks like a rosewood board to me from the side. And the build quality on this is outstanding. All the frets are absolutely smooth on the end. I'm running up and down and not hurting myself. It's got 2 string trees up the top, just to compensate for the fact that it's a Strat style 6-in-line headstock. And I don't know how much more I can say about this one because it's absolutely solid. He's designed it with a 3-way switch, single tone pot, single volume, which is great for me because it's nice and simple, and I like simple designs on guitars because if I'm in the middle of a show, I don't really want to be stopping and going more of this, less of that, more of this, less of that, more of this. I'm more of a pedals kind of guy. If I want a boost, I hit with my foot so I don't have to take my hands away. If you're someone like, say, Joe Bonamassa, you might want to go the opposite route and do a Les Paul style setup. But as much as Stephen Hart has kind of ideas in his head of what he likes of a guitar, he's quite happy to build things to your spec. Now, one thing that's really worth talking about with these things is the price. Because if you want a very high quality custom built guitar in the UK right now, you're probably looking at somewhere between £2,000 and £3,000. If we're talking like Mayona's level, Carillion guitars, he's really up and coming, Black Machine. I'm starting to get to the opinion that Stephen Hart's on the level with Black Machine B6s, except that instead of £2,000 to £3,000, this one, for example, comes in at just under £900. So that's less than half. And that's with all custom exotic woods. That's with a really nice set neck here, a custom wood backplate. That's with all the custom hardware. I have no idea how he manages to do these things at this price point, but that is his way. So you should go out and talk to Stephen and try and grab a bargain. As for the bass, this is where we get into the weird stuff a little bit, but being a bass player, I thought I'd give this a try. This is, I don't think this has a model, but this is a FF5 5-string that he's made, and if you look at the neck, it's got a beautiful kind of, not quilted, is it spalted maple top? It's a figured maple of some kind. The neck is wenge, which is thick, and look at the size of this body. It's huge. I'm not sure what the wood is, but it feels like lead. But this particular design is not indicative of everyone that he makes. If you said to him, Stephen, I like this, can you make it an inch thinner? He'd probably just take an inch off the back for you, because why not? Everything's built well enough that it's not going to buckle under pressure. The neck on this is a little chunky, but it doesn't feel like a baseball bat. I've had guitars where it really starts to hurt after a while, and this bass, I think the profile is what does it. It doesn't feel awful. It's got a lean back headstock and a kind of Ibanez-y, Warwick-y style bit here, which I find quite useful, because if I'm not looking, I slide up the neck, I hit it, and I don't have to look down and stare at the frets and go, where am I? Now, one of the things that's really worth talking about with this is the fan frets, because this is quite alien to a lot of guitarists and bass players, and I have to say, I hadn't played one really in depth before I spent a good few days with this, and I've got to say, it made no difference to me. In terms of playing, it was absolutely the same, but the benefit was that the scale on the B string and the E string is a bit longer than it normally would be, and what that means is that you can get lower down in terms of the tuning without it going and flobbing about. So I'm not a big fan of thick bottom strings, because you can get a 135 gauge B string, and I'd much rather play a 125. I like thinner strings. I like them to be able to kind of play quite lightly, but at that level you end up with a kind of and a very ill-defined note. And if you want to know more about fan frets, Anderton's Music in the UK have just made a video about fan fret basses, and that's the links here, so check that out. But Stephen will do you a 6-string bass, a 7-string bass, a 4-string bass, with or without fan frets, and he'll calculate them exactly how you want. If you prefer the bendiness to be up the top, because say you're never going to use the B string above the 12th fret if you're not a high kind of solo kind of guy, then he can do it that way. Or you can have it calculated the other way like this, where it looks wrong, but because your arm stretches out this way, you look at that kind of the way that my hand stretches and reaches, it's quite natural. It fits very well. And for that real kind of flappy, floppy, kind of grit bass, the notes come through and the definition is there without extensive EQing, which makes it a great work tool. And again, these are not incredibly expensive. If you talk to Stephen, he will do all sorts of designs for you. And most of the charge, honestly, is how rare the wood is and what electronics and hardware you choose. And all the more power to him, because that's, he's not out to rip us off. He's being currently a one-man band, he's not got a warehouse to pay for, he's not got craziness, so get in there while you can, while these prices are absolutely within the reach of us mortal humans. Because as much as everyone goes, oh, you've got this great big recording studio, you got loads of money. No, that's not how it works. I wish that were the case, but in truth, I have just as little money as everybody else, and I'd love to have loads of these guitars. But as it is, at this kind of price range, I can and will have at least a couple of these. So go and get yourself one and check him out. I'll put a link to his website down in the description below. I've been Adam Steele for the Hot Pole Studios. Thanks for watching.